Well, Olivia, I must admit there's still a lot of stress here in Philadelphia. 2 days after the presidential election, there's still no clear winner for the Keystone State. Now, about 89% of the ballots have been counted. About 400,000 remain to be counted. Trump is currently in the lead, but his gap is slimming. Basically, Joe Biden is catching up with him. Now, the president has called for the count to stop, but we're in front of the Pennsylvania Convention Center where that count continues. What they're counting are the mail-in and absentee ballots for Philadelphia. And given the unprecedented nature of this election, a lot of people have resorted to mail-in and absentee ballots. About 50% of people who vote in Philadelphia have used that method. And it takes time to count those ballots because as they've been mailed in, they have to be physically removed from envelopes. They're in several envelopes and then manually fed into a machine that will then scan the votes. And all that process takes some time. Now, we're in front of the convention center here. On the other side, there have been some demonstrations from people who are calling for every ballot to be counted. In fact, we attended a Count Every Vote rally yesterday, and so there are a couple of demonstrators on the other side of the convention center, and there are a couple of pro-Trump supporters as well holding up signs saying, for instance, sorry, polling stations are closed, voting ends on Election Day. There's also a very heavy police presence around the convention center to ensure that everything remains calm while those ballots are being counted.
So you mentioned there this climate of intimidation, President Trump singling out Pennsylvania, saying he'll take them to court for continuing to count votes there. But in terms of the effect on the proceedings, you're saying that things are continuing as normal. There's an extension even.
Absolutely. Basically, here in Pennsylvania, there has been an extension to the deadline to count those absentee and mail-in ballots. So anything that was postmarked November 3rd, even if they're receiving them now, they have 3 days to count them. So basically until Friday, November 6th, those votes can be counted. And so so basically they're waiting for those votes to come in, and that's why they haven't given a clear result yet, because not all the ballots have been received. Now, keep in mind that Republicans already challenged this, and it already went to the Supreme Court, which decided not to overturn this extension of the deadline. And the court essentially deadlocked on this question because the new judge, Amy Coney Barrett, decided not to weigh in on whether or not to overturn this extension. But given the uncertain nature of whether Republicans will challenge this again, and actually Trump, has already said that he wants to challenge this again, all the votes that have been received between November 3rd and November 6th, and when they'll be received on November 6th, they're going to be tallied separately. So they won't be mixed in with the other votes in case they are indeed contested. But that's why there's a lot of uncertainty here. But you just heard from the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf. He is very adamant that every single vote will be counted. He's calling Trump's lawsuit a disgrace. Trump is saying there's a lack of transparency around the vote, but you can actually follow what is happening behind me at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. You can follow it on YouTube. You can see those workers manually feeding the ballots into those machines, and there are voter observers as well. So the governor is adamant it's disgraceful to try and stop this vote. He says, I'm going to fight like hell to protect the vote of every Pennsylvanian. And just one more thing to keep in mind is that states have been counting ballots after Election Day for decades now. So there's nothing new about this. But what's new certainly is that the president is putting into question.
Thank you very much, Florence Villeminot there.